Bonjour tout le monde. It's Jesse Camacho, and you're listening to the Three Geeks Podcast.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Three Geeks Podcast. I am joined, as always, by Max, Dan, Scott, Mike, and John.
Who are you?
And a few weeks ago, we had Rebekah on the cast, and she wanted to come back for more. She wanted to sit on an actual cast, which we're so happy because we've been looking to get a female voice on this show. So we're hoping to have more women on the show.
Yeah, it's a stereotypical nerd thing, but we just don't know a lot of girls.
I know a lot of girls, and none of them want to come on my podcast. Like, you can't walk into a bar and use that as a line. Hey, how you doing? Do you want to come on my podcast?
Well, not anymore, because what are bars?
No, good point.
Hey, Mike, a bar is where you make it, bro.
Would you like to come hang out with me in my ex-wife's basement? It'll be so much fun. Is that worse than living in your parents' basement?
No.
Okay.
Yes.
That's been crossing my mind a lot lately.
I would say yes.
Yes, it's worse.
Well, see, we have kids, so I like being here for the kids. I think that helps make it a little bit better.
It's a responsible thing.
That's what.
That just leveled up the whole situation like 100 times. If you were just living there like just for the sake of it, it would just be like, why?
Yeah, that's definitely a lot more weird. It's like, well, I'm just not going to find a better rent situation.
Yeah, I have nowhere else to go. It's fine.
All right.
Rebekah, how you doing today?
I'm well. Yeah, I'm super excited about co-hosting the Three Geeks podcast and doing well. Very lucky to be in Canada. Feeling that every day since I came back from LA. I came back from LA in the middle of March, and have been here in Toronto, Canada since. And we have our fair share of problems, but the U.S. is taking the problem cake right now. So yeah, we're handling the virus pretty okay. I mean, it's we entered phase 3 on Friday, so we'll kind of see how it goes. I think people are a little nervous still, like if it'll cause an uptick in cases or if it's going to stay chill. It remains to be seen. But so far,
what are you talking about? The U.S. has the best numbers. We're the greatest.
No,
we're doing fantastic.
We're winning. We're winning everything, and it's not.
Yes.
I believe it was Mighty Ducks that said it's not worth winning if you can't win big.
Exactly. Oh, Mighty Ducks, one of my favorite movie franchises.
First of all, Rebekah, you have the NHL playoffs going on in your home country, so everything's fine with Canada.
Exactly. I realized that was the only thing. I was like, damn, I just want to watch hockey. It's on mute in the background right now. Just like the NHL station is on mute in the background. I know
there's nothing wrong with this. I see nothing wrong with this idea at all.
And yeah, I know several people who have just taken vacation this week just to watch hockey all week. That is their big plan. And I wish I did the same.
It's like March Madness except hockey. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they're actually killing it with the bubble. The NHL bubbles. There's 2, one in Toronto where I am, and then one in Edmonton, I think, is the second bubble. And they did a really great job of it. Certainly, I feel like the MLB might want to take a lesson.
Well, okay. Now, the NHL went to some place that they're in phase 3. The MLB went to some place where they're in COVID breakout epidemic.
I know.
Phase. And, oh my God, the whole state is burning down. That's what they're in.
It's crazy.
And the NBA also did the bubble, but yet NBA players can't stay in the bubble.
Oh, yeah.
They keep leaving. It's like, what's the point?
Like, I'm having a family emergency. I really need this girl to sit on my face.
Yeah.
Classic family emergency.
Yeah, it's really a health problem in America that we have.
I don't know how you guys can watch sports because I was watching basketball the other day. I'm like, I'm gonna turn on basketball. I haven't watched it in a while, and there's nothing new anywhere else. So I was laughing so hard at the stands because of the cardboard cutouts. Like I was so distracted by the cardboard cutouts. I thought they were great.
I like the cardboard cutouts too. I think they're not going as far with the cardboard cutouts as they could, because I would like to see the Hulk taking up 5 or 6 seats in my stands.
Yeah.
That would be cool. They're not having enough fun with it.
I just think it's cool that the parents that own the stadiums are letting their kids color in these people. It's great.
They need to make a side game where like they get the ball through the hoop, but they have to take out some of the fans.
Oh, that happened. Dan, that happened at MLB. I forget what game it was. Somebody drilled a home run and went right through the cardboard cutout's face.
Yeah, but
knocked his head completely off.
That's
if
great.
they destroy your little cardboard cutout, you should get something. They should send you something. You should get the ball or something.
Instead, you get COVID.
There you go. Yeah,
that's also bad.
I like being able to hear the players though. Like I kind of like the empty stadiums for hockey. Like I love hearing the shouting. I was a big fan of the Boston Blue Jackets exhibition game that happened the other night, just because everyone's just screaming at each other and you could hear it. It was awesome.
Yeah, it kind of feels like you're there. I now I'm going to admit that I'm a bad Canadian. I had never been to a live hockey game until this past fall. And my boyfriend and I went to Montreal for the weekend and we got tickets to a Canadiens game. And it was amazing because you get to hear, we were close enough, but also maybe there's just a crazy echo in the stadium, but where you can hear them talking shit to each other. And it's incredibly entertaining, just a whole new level of entertaining.
I think it'd be even more entertaining if they were just really civil and working out their schedules across the rink from each other. They'd be like, "Hey Tony, you coming to the christening next week or what?"
Hey Fred, who'd you have
to be random?
So anyway, welcome to the podcast. There's lots of stuff that we want to talk about on this episode. A lot of fun stuff.
Yeah.
And I have questions for you guys.
Oh, do you?
Oh. Before we get going though, I feel like I owe everyone an apology. Everybody with the podcast.
I feel that way too, John.
Yes, I mean I do. I feel bad because because Mike of my critique last week of Dennis Quaid has had huge ramifications. I'm sure. I mean,
Dennis or Randy?
No, Dennis. I mean,
okay.
I was ragging on Dennis very, very, very in a very harsh manner. I'm sure Randy heard it. That's why he blocked the 3 Geeks Podcast on Twitter. I'm sure. And so I want to apologize. I mean, after thinking about it, my comments about Dennis Quaid came from a source of jealousy, probably, because he's got obviously much better game than I do. And that's why I think I was just talking so much smack about it. And so Randy Quaid, Dennis Quaid, I apologize for my insensitive comments, Dennis, about you. And by the way, I also want to apologize, Dennis Quaid, for the few times I've mistaken you for Sam Neill. So there's that as well. So
that's worth
apologies all around.
You're okay, dude. Seriously, you are not helping. Okay, we've had multiple issues with you. Okay, John.
Oh wait, time out. I'm not the scapegoat.
HR is not freaking happy with you, and then you pull this crap apology. We've been Quaid canceled. We've been Quaid, and it's your fault.
Sam Neill just blocked us.
What'd you say, Mike?
Aww.
Sam Neill just blocked us. Yep.
And now
damn it. I actually like Sam Neill. Come on.
Right?
Well, I'm sorry. I apologize.
Context to those that are watching and or listening. So I sent Randy Quaid a nice little message after last week's podcast because we were joking, goofing around, whatever, about his filmography, and my email to him was, "Hello, Mr. Quaid. I've been a fan of yours since I was super young and wanted to reach out and see if you'd be into popping onto our podcast to chat. I don't know that you will ever see this, and if you do, that is an honor in and of itself. Thank you, sir. And I think that sounds pretty nice.
I would 100% cancel the stalker that sent me that email.
And then what I get back a day, not even a day later, is you can no longer send messages to this person.
Wow.
No, I get it.
I really was curious about all of his conspiracy theories that he's in. Apparently,
Scott, hang on. Scott gets Sam Neill and Pat Sajak mixed up all the time. He says,
dude, when I was younger, when I wasn't in my Matlock phase, I went through a I want to be Pat Sajak phase, which also involved a suit.
What?
I wanted to. Pat Sajak used to have a talk show back in the 80s.
Yeah.
And I watched it because I thought Pat Sajak was so cool because he had Vanna White. I was 8.
Now, Jason, I've known you for going on at least 30 years now, perhaps.
Something like that.
Close to that. How is it I keep learning new stuff about you?
Because up until a few years ago, I had to be an alcoholic to talk to anybody. Remember?
Oh yeah.
Very complicated.
So yeah, unfortunately, we got banned by Randy Quaid, who hates all media. So he probably honestly just saw the word podcast and hit block.
Well, good. I'm glad it wasn't because of my insensitive comments about Dennis.
No, it was definitely the insensitive comments.
I'm not sure he knows how to get a podcast to play, so probably not.
Well, that's right, because the internet, Dan, is probably full of like all kinds of weird stuff that Randy Quaid doesn't want to interact with it.
Full of evil.
It's full of evil. There you go. I cannot wait for when we click on TMZ.com and the headline reads, Randy Quaid mad at podcasters in Ohio. And, we don't know. We're like, what?
Oh, that would be great. That would be great. It's like swarms of news media at our doors. Like,
what do you want? Hey.
What do you?
On the other hand, I don't think TMZ really cares about what Randy Quaid says.
Hey,
so.
If it's a slow news day, they'll do anything.
Okay, fair enough.
It can get on TMZ for sure.
All right, well, let's shift into something a bit more serious. Wilford Brimley passed away yesterday at the age of 85. He was in several good films, Cocoon, The Firm, The Thing, and my personal favorite, Hard Target, with the greatest thespian ever known, Jean-Claude Van Damme, who is in the background of this podcast.
Is he?
Yeah, he's right there. I'm not good at these, so I'm going to turn this over to Mike. Mike, tell us a little bit about Wilford and Brimley.
Yeah, Wilford Brimley, tremendous talent. We probably all knew him at one point or another through movies or television. I, of course, knew him primarily through The Thing and through seeing him on diabetes commercials and Quaker Oats spokesman. But I also liked a lot of his other stuff, Cocoon, The Return. And I was reminded that he was on a show I used to catch episodes of every once in a while when I was younger called Our House. And just like he was a perpetual grandfather every time I saw him in anything. But I feel like that was a great strength in his character acting and in his performances. He always just conveyed a sense of, that old age and respect that you want to be able to muster up for any of his characters. And he will be missed. Like I was saying before we started, he left this earth with an Xbox achievement. The only thing I found on him that was in the least bit problematic probably was that he was all for cockfighting. Who knew? But you know what? Whatever.
Those are different times that he grew up in.
Yeah, clearly from a different era where he was like, this is no big deal. But I mean, it wasn't like he just went full tilt Randy Quaid and cockfighting, legalization became his sole focus. Like the guy worked his butt off, and wish you all the best, Mr. Brimley, and hope that you have a little bit of peace and respite, and you are now diabetes free. And I mean that sincerely. Like that's not a joke. Like he was really staunch, advocate for managing that condition. So,
I mostly remember him from the diabetes commercials. I've seen him in like a bunch of stuff, like all that stuff, but it's weird. Like, I don't know. The commercial is like, when I think of that dude, like that's exactly what I go to. He was a good actor. I don't know how he was as a person. Rebekah is having a moment, so she really loved Wilford Brimley.
It's time for some Quaker Oats.
Okay. There's a film done in, I think, the late 80s or early 90s. It was done by the USA Network called Death Valley, and it stars him as an axe murderer. You can only get it on VHS, and I haven't bought it off of eBay yet because I don't know. But I mean that just makes me happy that Wilford Brimley not only breaks stereo stuff in the thing, but goes full on axe murderer at some point.
Hey! I don't want to cause alarm, but Rebekah just private chatted with us that somebody's knocking on her door. I swear to God, if it's Randy Quaid, I am very sorry. I swear to God, I was just goofing. I swear.
He is in Canada now.
Do you see, John? Do you see now?
Words have actions and consequences, and I'm sorry, Max. I'm so sorry.
Goodness sake.
Also, Dan just completely spoiled Death Valley because, I read the quick synopsis, and Wilford Brimley is the sheriff. So Dan just spoiled who the killer is.
Dude!
Oh man, I'm sorry for screwing up your viewing of a 30-year-old USA TV movie.
Well, it's only available on VHS.
I just saved you $30. Shut up, Max.
Oh man. And all the time with this shit. All the time.
Whew. All right, Rebekah's back, so Randy Quaid is not at her door demanding an apology. So I'm very relieved on that.
Rebekah, we know Wilford was a very special person in your life. That's why you had to take a moment off camera. If you want to say a few words.
A grieving moment. No, it's so funny. He has one of those faces where I immediately when I heard his name, I was like, The Thing. That's the movie I know him from. But he's got over 70 titles. He's been in over 70 movies, and he's just got one of those faces where it's like, oh yeah, that guy. He's in everything. But you would just, I didn't even R.I.P. Wilford.
Mm-hmm. And I mentioned that I read. There's been all this trivia about him. He was always old looking, even when he wasn't. When he was in The Natural, he was 49 years old. Robert Redford was 47. But yet he didn't look like he was 49 because he looked like he always has looked, kind of old.
Yeah, no, he's Danny Trejo, Morgan Freeman,
Fidel Castro. Well, Fidel Castro's always looked old, man.
Way to keep it with the theme. Those famous Hollywood actors, Danny Trejo, Fidel Castro.
But yeah, no, it's weird. It's like a weird reverse of Black Don't Crack, but they just stay that old 65-ish look for forever. I don't know.
Yep.
I just wanted to say quickly, Jim's watching us right now, and in the comments he says he loves him in The Natural. Yeah, that's a really great. I actually like that movie quite a bit. So,
Jim, if you got anything you want to talk about with wrestling, you can throw that in the comments. John and Dan would be happy to touch on the subject. They'd be more than happy to talk about some wrestling. But anyway, you said you had some questions for us, Rebekah?
Oh, yeah. Well, I was like, I have to capitalize on this moment. I mean, I was just thinking as an actor, writer, creator, my brain is always contextualizing events in terms of stories. How do I turn things into stories? And I just have so many questions for you guys, about, I feel like I have an opportunity to get the inside track on what audiences want to see through you guys and through your listeners of the podcast, and it's such a weird time right now that I feel like my cravings for what I want to watch or read or see have really shifted during the pandemic. It's really interesting. I don't know what, I usually am an avid reader. And over the course of the last few months, I've like started 5 or 6 books. I can't seem to finish a single book. I don't know what that's about. And yet, like, I have never been a reality TV guy ever. Like, I just have never, the closest I've ever gotten to being a reality TV person is probably like Planet Earth and the Cosmos. Love both, but like, I'm not a reality TV person really. But there have been some reality TV shows that during the pandemic have totally gripped me. I honestly couldn't tell you why. So I'm just curious, like, how has your taste changed? What do you think people want to see now? Like, I feel like it's, you know, for me, it's like partly escapism. I think that's why I'm into like Battlefish, which is a reality TV show currently on Netflix, has fully gripped me. I watched the entire first season in like less time than I would like to admit. But I just feel like escapism is really the name of the game. That's the theme for me of content I want to see. So I just want to know, like, what have your tastes changed through this? I mean, not permanently, but you're craving, you know, when you get that hankering for like, I just want to watch like this kind of thing. Like, how has it shifted for you?
This is going to branch off into one of the topics we had for today, but I have been watching a lot of true crime TV shows, a lot of true crime shows and podcasts and listening. I found out one very important thing is that Walmart is responsible for like most of the crimes being solved in this country. I don't know if that's true, but in the episode, they always go to Walmart security footage in the end, and that's what ends up catching the bad guy. And Walmart needs to get some new cameras if they're going to be, more involved with this. Jay Baylock writes, Rebekah, you can admit it. You have fallen in love with Ultimate Tag and Titan games. Thanks a lot for the comment, Jim.
What? I'm going to disappoint Jim. What is Ultimate Tag and Titan?
I haven't watched Ultimate Tag yet, but it's a new show on Hulu.
No, it's on Fox, I think. It's on Fox.
Okay, Jim, that's one for the list, though. I'm literally writing it down because now I'm apparently a reality TV guy.
Yeah, it's see, like, I prefer more. Yeah, if I'm watching reality TV, I prefer more of like what he's saying, like Ultimate Tag, American Ninja Warrior, old school Japanese Ninja Warrior is awesome.
Nice.
More stuff like that. I can't stand a lot of anything where it's like people just yapping at each other and they're like having relationships, and like, I mean, I don't care about any of the people, and I don't care about like what anything that's going on. Like, I really have a hard time like connecting with that. But as far as like different things that like I want to see, I actually kind of just like sunk more into my like I'm like, okay, I love anime. I'm just gonna watch all the bad anime that I've ever seen over again. Like that's kind of where I'm at.
Rewatch, big fan of the rewatch. I love a movie. That's another question I have for you guys. Actually, I want to know the movies that you can just watch over and over and over again and never get sick of.
Thanks a lot, Clint.
Van Wilder is up there. Like a rewatchable.
That's amazing.
Ace Ventura, Pet Detective.
Yeah. We know this guy saw Ace Ventura, Pet Detective like 87 times in the theater.
You got to give the real numbers. 37 is nothing to be ashamed about seeing it 37 times. What's most impressive about that number is I didn't go with the same person once. I conned 37 people to take me to that movie because I only paid to see it one time.
Oh, so you served 36 people.
Yeah. It was a good time. My dad was so mad when he found out he took me to see it for the 12th time. He's like, he's old school, so he's like, we don't pay for movies more than once. I'm like, what? How did you have me as a child? Ace Ventura, I finished The Office during quarantine. I started and finished The Office in quarantine, and then I restarted The Office. So I've been watching a lot of The Office.
Classic.
For me, there's two, Memento and Black Dynamite.
Black Dynamite.
Yeah, I can watch Black Dynamite. I laugh all the time. I've seen it 25 times, and I still laugh at it.
Nice.
Yeah, when we can get out of the bunkers, we need to do like a Black Dynamite like fest, like a convention or something.
Well, you want to watch all the blaxploitation films I've been watching?
No, we don't need all that.
No, I mean,
I like Black Dynamite because it's a joke on that thing.
Okay.
And yeah, no, like John, I don't even understand how you go through. I mean, the boss or just boss.
Yes, boss.
Just boss.
Careful.
That
Baby got a new pair of shoes, coffee,
Superfly.
Petey Wheatstraw, come on.
Petey Wheatstraw. I hit that one up. Black Caesar. I mean, I've been on a tear of watching them all.
Oh my goodness!
I've just made an observation. So, like, the black guy on the podcast doesn't watch blaxploitation, but like everybody else does.
No, I'm with Max. I've only ever really seen Black Dynamite, and
I've seen Superfly. I've seen a bunch of Shaft movies. I've seen, I've seen some, but it's not really But Black Dynamite, it's like Black Dynamite is like the anime One Punch Man. It really sums up all of the worst things about this genre, while also giving you all of the things that you want, which are all the worst things about the genre. And it's I like the wink at it, and while also just doing the whatever. So that's why I think Black Dynamite is just like the best thing to watch. If you're trying to introduce someone to blaxploitation, or if you're just like, hey, I need a good movie to watch that I haven't seen in this genre. Yeah, Black Dynamite, 100%. It's so good. And I've never seen Michael Jai White used so effectively, because he's not really a good actor or a good like movie martial artist. I because he's like the old school 90s circle fight kind of guy, but like this movie just perfectly uses everything in. It's so many like winks and nods to things. It's incredible. That's why I love Black Dynamite.
We have a question for Rebekah. I'm going to throw it right up there on the screen. It says, Rebekah, how do you think this pandemic lockdown will compare to the writer's strike from a decade ago as far as product being put out?
That's a great question. Thank you, Jim. So that's interesting. I mean, I hesitate to give a finite answer just because I hate when, you predict something and then it's recorded and then, you have to be held to it. But I actually suspect that it might be in production, in the sense of production, but actually there are so many writers' rooms that have continued through the pandemic, that have continued virtually. And in fact, development is one of the only phases of production that we can kind of still consistently make happen during the pandemic. So I think we're going to see like a massive influx in content there already is, I know, a massive influx of content that's being written, but I don't know in terms of how it's going to go when that content needs to be produced. Like there's definitely going to be a delay in terms of what audiences end up seeing. But, an interesting thing that we've been talking a lot about, there's a big, I don't know if you guys know this, but like there's a big community of Canadians in LA. Almost all of them work in the entertainment industry. There's over 1 million Canadians in LA. So we like to joke it's the third largest Canadian city. But yeah. But we've been talking a lot about productions coming to shoot here, because in terms of the virus and the pandemic and stuff, we are already able to resume production in Canada, obviously with safety measures in place. And there's a lot of complications involved because it puts budgets up. I think budgets are increasing anywhere from like 10 to 25% because of virus protocol, basically. But I think that there will be more opportunities for some American productions and the studios and networks to come to Canada to shoot stuff. Already quite common. We have a pretty big industry here, Hollywood North, as they like to call it. So, but yeah, I think it'll only get bigger. So it might present some opportunity. But how they resume shooting is a really interesting thing. So ultimately, it might have a similar effect, just in terms of like, although people are writing continually, there'll be like a massive delay in production and then a production crunch. Because like one of the things that a lot of people in our industry that are working like agents and managers are really concerned about the scheduling of things, which is just going to be a total clusterfuck. Or excuse my language.
No, you're all good.
You're fine.
It flew out. It's going to be quite a challenge, the scheduling, because obviously, like if you think about, say, any big star who might have had a film or show going into production that was supposed to happen or go to camera beginning of April, let's say. So now that production's being pushed, and it's going to have to be pushed so far that it will be pushed to when the next production was supposed to start shooting, probably for them, for someone who's got a stacked schedule. So it's going to be just a total shit show in terms of like scheduling and actually getting these productions mounted, but then getting your cast and your crew that you originally booked, getting them back. So that's a whole nother kettle of fish.
And then probably also adding on that, making sure everyone's healthy too.
Yeah.
Like everyone's got to do the quarantine. It's like,
yeah. So like another big issue with production right now, and one of the reasons so many productions aren't going to go to camera is because they can't get insured, right? So most of the insurance companies aren't willing to bond or like back the production, because they know that like we really can't guarantee that no one's going to get sick, especially in areas where the virus is super rampant. So productions that are going to camera are going to have to go without knowing that they will not have insurance if somebody gets sick. So it's a huge liability. And like the studios and networks just probably, understandably so, don't want to take that on.
Well, I mean, and that's kind of where the major sports, I think, is going to help, because they're finding out, you know, if the NHL, like, they've done a really good job so far. And the MLB, like their opening day, like 8% of the teams had COVID on the teams or something like that. So, you know, if we can find a good system to use, I think that'll help also. You know, we're just kind of trying to figure out like what we can do, you know, or you know, anyone's trying to figure out what they can do to get people together to do a thing, and then see if, you know, they can keep people from getting sick. But you know, I think, you know, as we progress, we'll start to figure out what you can do and what you can't do, and
one of the really good things I think that will help us, especially in a production setting, is testing. Because now testing here, like in Canada, you can go and get a test. There's no issue. It's free. You don't have to have symptoms. Anybody can go and get a test. So I think that like for productions, they're going to have to quarantine and test. But it's just the budgets, right? Because now if you have to have someone quarantined for 2 weeks before they start shooting and before a production goes to camera, or if you have to do that for an entire cast and crew, not only do you have to like pay to make sure all of these extra expenses are put in place so they can stay bubbled for the shoot, you got to pay for that extra 2 weeks to like feed them and house them and everything before you present. It's like, it's an undertaking.
I think it'll be interesting. There's going to be a lot of different production bubbles, and then, you know, there's going to be a lot of fun stuff with people who are like just stuck together for however long this takes, you know, because if things do change where, okay, we've got to film everything, it's more now cost productive to film everything at once. So, you know, like if you're in the movie for like a shot, or if you're in the movie for, if you're the big star, we need you to be here the whole time. So I think it might, you know, it lead to some interesting different behind the scenes situations where, you know, like we got a lot of fun stuff happening where people are just like stuck together for, you know, 3 or 4 months.
Yeah.
And
you're on a shoot so long you become a micro nation. Like basically,
I just saw where there's something on Shudder that's coming where I think people, they shot like with 6 actors and actresses. It was a Zoom call, but then like freaky things because they do a seance over Zoom call, and they kind of like things happen. I just saw it on the morning news show down here, and like, so I'm just wondering if people are
get like, I mean, like unfriended.
It's like, it's quite inventive. I think my boyfriend runs a production company that mostly does commercials and music videos, and he's had days where both of us are working from home right now, but he's had days where he's on set from home because they've rigged up a live feed so that every member of the cast and crew can be on the set in the comfort of their own home. So a couple of shoots where the director was remote and was able to direct remotely so that they can reduce the number of people on the actual shoot. Cause it's like, they're not going to quarantine people for 14 days for a 1-day commercial shoot. Right. So it just makes sense to reduce the number of people on set. And in his case, like he's EP, doesn't need to be there, but he needs to be able to be in constant communication. So it actually worked amazingly well.
Jack Doherty writes,
I feel like stuff's been written, just production has stopped. One of the things that I know, the morning show, they actually had their second season written, and after COVID, they threw it all away and they've started fresh because they're going to incorporate. And I guess they did that already with the first season. They had something written and then they trashed it to do, focus on Metoo. So I'm curious to see what comes out of that show because I was a big fan of the first season.
Yeah. It's I think that is kind of more interesting, and Jack is right for sure. Stuff's being written, but production has been stopped. So it's almost the opposite scenario in a sense of the writer's strike, or the opposite cause. But it's gonna be interesting because I think what's even more interesting to consider is how writers are going to work in the virus or not into their shows. Because so many shows straddle, their fictive stance basically is in the real world. So I'll be so curious to know how are shows going to handle that? Are they going to address it? Are they not? How much are they going to address it? Are they going to start seasons after the pandemic? So they'll talk about it in the past. I'm very curious. I'm working on 8 or 9 projects right now, all in various phases of development, and how we work in the virus into the show is absolutely at the top of my mind. What the best way is to do that. So I'm curious to hear what you guys think. What would you want to see? Do you want to be reminded of this hellish time? Do you feel it needs to be addressed? Do you want to just avoid it altogether? How do you think we should go about this?
It's sort of the same thing as do you show the Twin Towers after they went down, or do you show the New York skyline after how do you do that? And it's sensitive, and it's going to be how I feel like there's going to be a lot of people who incorporate some aspect of this into the writing, just because it's touched so this has changed so much for so many people that I don't feel like it can just go unsaid.
Totally.
But it's going to be interesting to see how because some people are having positive experiences from the lockdown and from COVID, and some so how it's depicted and how people talk about it will be interesting. But I don't feel like it'll be brushed over or be actually oh no, nothing happened, global pandemics, don't worry about it. It's just too big for that.
It'd be pretty ballsy as a writer to just be well, we're going to ignore this.
Sunshine and rainbows, it's all good.
Yeah.
All right, Scott, Dan, did you guys want to answer Rebecca's question about the movies and TV shows and stuff?
So actually, it's funny because you had said how have our taste changed, and I feel like your second question was how I was before, where I was just rewatching things all the time. Yeah. And now that I've got a lot more time, I'm all right, I need to sit down and work through the backlog. I've got watch lists and on pretty much every streaming service, and I've got a list typed up these are movies I should get around to seeing at some point. So that's how the quarantine has affected my watch styles in terms of just trying to explore new things.
Yeah. I need to do the same. My watch list is growing so long that I just need to start taking down a different show every night. Never.
Yeah, it's got 2 more off of this podcast with the Titan games and the whatever else.
I know.
Yeah, exactly.
Ultimate Tag. I remember things.
What about you, Dan?
There you go. As far as my taste, now John a while ago turned me on to Tubi, and you know what Tubi has? Period Asian drama. And it is the most just crazy ass thing you've ever seen, because they've spent so much money on the sets and everything that they try to get the biggest audience that they possibly can. So you've got wire fighting, musical, love story, drama, political thing going on, and it is great.
So wait a minute, time out. I have to ask. Wait a minute. When I started using Tubi, it just randomly picked movies for me at the beginning, and now it's learning my preferences. So did it just randomly go, Dan, you're gonna love this?
There's nothing random about that. There's not one random thing about that.
No, there's not. See, because when I join a new streaming service, the first thing I do is go through every fucking thing that they have. And
Okay,
I found this fun Chinese show about some magical blade that brings down the government. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna try that.
I want to burn down the government. I wish I had a magical blade.
It does have subtitles, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay.
I've been completely lost.
Chinese, you didn't know this?
Hey! I just asked. I watch plenty of Japanese pro wrestling, and I have no idea what the commentators are saying.
Well, you do. It's the same as English commentators. You just paste it over.
Watch out!
In an effort to not be confined by subtitles for all the ridiculous amounts of anime that I watch, I tried to. I downloaded a cheap, free crap version of Rosetta Stone.
Is it Duolingo?
So that I could just watch anime. I wasn't glued to the screen, so I had to see the words. But it was not a good. I need to spend the money. It's a worthwhile endeavor.
I have to say.
Go ahead.
Oh yeah, no, I was just gonna say I'm obsessed with this show on Netflix called Dark. It's a German show. I don't know if you guys have seen it. It's incredible. But
I've seen a lot of people recommend it.
Oh my gosh, it's so worth your time. It is. I was just reading an article actually. So the show, it's a sci-fi series about time travel. I don't want to say much more than that because spoilers. But I was reading an article the other day talking about a guy who's he's a huge nerd. He loves sci-fi. He's always looking for plot holes in things because it's a huge barrier for him. Where he'll love something, and be like, oh man, there's so many plot holes, I can't get on board. He has scoured the entire 3 seasons of this series for plot holes and can't find one, which is next to impossible with time travel, but they managed to do it. But for some reason, the auto setting on Netflix for the show is to go to dubbed in English. And it is horrendous. You can't watch this dubbed in English. It's their mouths are moving, but they've stopped talking. It just will drive you insane. I far prefer
once you change it, it should, because this is sort of if I'm watching something, subs and dubs is a real the battle between subbers and dubbers is real, and it is epic and long. But if you switch it to the original language and the English subtitles, it should leave you on that. So the next thing you do, it'll be in its original language with the subtitles.
Yeah.
Unless you switch it back. So if if you're watching things that require subtitles, that won't be an issue for you.
I guess I'm a subber. Wow. I can't stand watching things dubbed unless I want to watch it dubbed for the comedy of watching mouths move, no words coming out.
Yes.
But I can't. It just ruins it for me. And I'm also the original actors. Your voice is. Our voices are our emotions. They express our emotions, whether we like it or not, really, and so we can't hear the original tone of everyone's voice and their expression and stuff. I'm just oh my God, this performance.
Oh yeah. And in German, in Japanese, I love listening to things in Japanese because the emotion that they convey for even the most ridiculous of things is so much better than just in the English. So I 100% I'm a subber also. I think subs are the best, but but again, unless you're going to learn the original language, because that is the highest level of whatever you can achieve. Whereas, what? I have to understand fully what they're saying.
And you got to learn the nuance too. You can't just know, the common phrase book, where is the bathroom and can I get a taxi?
Right.
Yeah, know the colloquialisms and all that.
Yeah.
All right, everybody got quiet.
Yeah.
That wasn't awkward at all. I turned on Ju-On on Netflix, which I haven't finished yet, but I started it with the English. I was like, all right, let's see where this goes. And it was so atrocious. It's the voice actors that were doing the dub weren't even trying. So I had to, because I was trying to do it while I was working so I could just listen to it, but that was not a thing that was going to happen.
Yeah, it's The Raid. If you try to watch that dubbed, it's a terrible movie. None of the action changes, but the dubbing is so bad that it ruins the whole movie. And yeah, that's
how The Rain was on Netflix. Like I tried to watch it the English at first, and I didn't even know it was in another language. Like I just thought it was an American show. I wasn't paying to it close attention. I'm like, this show is awful. And then I found out it was a dub show, so I went back and watched it in its regular language, and I love that show. The first season was great.
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely. Unless they're really trying. I mean, like there's some good dubs, but unless they've hired a good crew and they're really trying to make it work, it's just not. It's just not not as good. I feel.
Here's a question though. Now I watch a lot of Asian horror and stuff. Now when you put that into the dub, like a lot of the dialogue is just so craptastic. Now when you change it back to their language, now I don't understand any of it. So is it the actual same lines? It just sounds better because I don't understand it.
No, you can't translate it and then translate back and expect to get the same, like the words don't even, because like the subtle differences in translation when you switch it the first time, and then you'll have more subtle differences when you're trying to switch it back, so it'll change.
No, I'm just saying like the original script isn't as bad as the dubbing makes it sometimes, because I would never know,
It's just like a weird thing where the performances don't match. The performances of the voice actors dubbing never match the original performance. And it's just fully, also like the art of subtitling or subbers or dubbers, I suppose. I learned a new terminology today. This is cool. But, it's such an art. It must be, because there are so many words that we lack for things in English, or so many languages that have words for things we don't have words for. And so there's no way you could verbatim subtitle something fully correctly. It would have to, there would be room for interpretation, right? So I bet you there's the top-notch subtitlers in the biz,
For sure.
So side, I have nothing to say about subbing and dubbing in anime, but one of my favorite movies is dubbed, and I happened to just catch it this morning again. Mad Max, the original, was dubbed in English because of the Australian. Luckily, the station that was playing it today, they showed the original. I mean, they just edited out the cursing and that. But I was like, oh yeah, I forgot that they have this. It's dubbed, because I've listened to it once in the English version. I'm like, yeah, I'm never doing this ever again. It's got to be the Australian. This is just terrible.
I can't even imagine. I've never heard the dubbed version, only the original, but I think I'll skip it.
Yeah, it's bad. It's pretty bad.
What if we redub all of the British shows that come over here?
Oh, that would be awesome.
that would be awesome in the most horrible way, Max.
Every time somebody says poppycock, we got to figure out some other thing to say.
Bullshit. That's
Pepsi Coke.
Pepsi Coke. Oh, it'll be like the dub work on Scarface. When they brought it to NBC.
Oh yeah, I love when you watch something on TBS and they just edit out. It's not. Okay. It's not hey, why don't you go fuck off? And it's always why don't you just go frog off? And it's it doesn't even match, guys. Come on.
I love clever editing. I love it. Clever editing is better than dubbing. Okay, clever editing is because you got to figure something sort of like what they said, but can't be what they said.
So my favorite example of that is if you ever watch the TV edit of The Big Lebowski when he's beating up the car.
Yeah.
And he's like, this is what happens. And they switched it with Meet a Stranger in the Alps.
Wow.
Which is incredible. It's
no, my favorite one is Half Baked. The TV edit for Half Baked. I suck toes for crack. You ever suck toes?
That's amazing.
I still got to go with Scarface though for the this town is like a chicken ready to be plucked line. It's so good.
Wow, that's a good one,
Yeah.
Dan.
Yeah,
That's a good one.
that is classic.
I have another question for you guys. What is, I was thinking about this earlier today. What is the first movie you remember watching?
Ooh.
That's a good question.
In theaters or just ever?
It could be in theaters, but I was thinking just ever. Like the first movie you ever saw as a kid. Do you remember what it was?
Wizard of Oz.
Empire Strikes Back.
For real?
That's the first movie I remember seeing in the theater. I don't know the first movie. I can't remember the first movie that I remember. But
In the
but
theater
definitely
was
the theater experience was Empire Strikes Back.
That's pretty
the
sick.
theater was Dark Crystal for me.
Wow, these are good ones.
It's because the Disney movie was sold out.
The first theater experience I can remember is my uncle said we were going to go see Beetlejuice. And we went and saw Good Morning Vietnam, and I was like 6.
Nice.
That's out of.
I learned a lot of new words that day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My mom
Because they weren't edited out, were they? They weren't,
no,
they
is
weren't
that
creatively edited.
Eating chickens.
no, I was not.
Yeah.
First movie that I ever remember watching, Return of the Jedi on VHS. First movie I remember watching in theater, The Land Before Time.
Oh man, I love The Land Before Time. Yes.
John Bluth in the house.
Oh man.
yeah.
Mine is super traumatic. My first memories of seeing a movie in theaters. I was maybe 4 years old, and it was the Addams Family, the live action version of the Addams Family. And we had tickets to a preview screening. I remember it just being like a super special thing that my mom got tickets to this preview screening somehow. I don't remember how. And we went for fish and chips beforehand, and I was wearing this new outfit I had, which in hindsight I think just looked like a pajama suit, but it was like a matching top and bottoms with like dinosaur print on it, and it was my favorite outfit. Anyway, I was wearing my prized outfit. We were going to the Addams Family. We go for fish and chips beforehand. We sit down in the theater. We see all the previews. I'm super stoked. The theater's packed. And right as the opening credits happen, I'm like, turn to my mom. I'm like, I'm not feeling so good. And I proceeded to projectile vomit all over the entire row in front of us.
Nice.
And all over my most prized outfit. And I was, oh man. And yeah, and there was a long time where I would like hear the theme song for the Addams Family and be like, I feel sick. I don't know why. What is happening?
Jim in the comments, he says that his first movie he saw was White Christmas, and his first theater experience was at the drive-in showing E.T.
White
Ooh.
Christmas. That's the one.
These are such good ones.
And what's up, George?
Danny Kaye and
Yeah.
I can't remember the second name.
Danny Kaye and the other guy.
Yeah, Danny Kaye and the other guy.
E.T. is probably the first movie I cried at.
E.T.
Oh.
I was like 5. I was like ball of tears. I was so upset.
I
Max
honestly
is just
can't answer that
throwing a
question.
grenade out there.
You know what? I'm actually like, kudos to all of you. I really kind of like lobbed a bomb out there, and nobody even. There's like, oh, nice.
I'm too busy trying to think of what mine was. I honestly can't remember.
Yeah.
I mean,
can't remember the first one I've ever seen.
Yeah, I vividly remember being at my mom's friend's house, and she had, her daughter was like 17 years older than me, and she was watching Jaws in the living room, and I went in and watched like a little bit of it, and then my mom was like, what are you doing? No, you're going to have nightmares.
PG,
Get out.
John.
Huh?
It's only PG.
I know, but my mom wasn't having it. I remember Star Wars, like a small snippet of that, but as to the entire movie, I don't know. I can't remember.
It was
I can't remember either.
70s PG, which is basically like an R, which is basically like, you're going to get the
Yeah.
full like bisection of a body.
Oh my God.
Yeah, my mom was not having it. She was like, out, get out. You're not watching this movie with her. Get out.
I was babysitting like 6 years ago, and I popped in 16 Candles. I wasn't thinking because it was rated PG. And that movie had fucking it twice and nudity.
Uh-huh. Yep.
I remember I had an uncle who used to take business trips to Japan, and he brought back the original Japanese version of My Neighbor Totoro on VHS.
Nice.
So that's like one of my very earliest like movie memories that I have as of that. So I was like, why is this? I don't understand this. Like, I know words, but I don't understand any of these words.
That's funny.
I remember the first movie that I left, and I've shared that before, was the first on this podcast was RoboCop.
What?
Like, my aunt didn't realize what she was taking me to, and I begged her to take me to it. And within the first 5 minutes, I remember, like, I turned to my aunt and I go, and I started crying. She's like, "We're leaving, let's go." And she laughed. She grabbed me and took me out. And then she, like, it was funny because I vividly remember her, like, giving the business to the ticket taker. Like, why don't you let me take this kid in this? They're like, "Lady, it's your son, and you bought the ticket." Yeah. But my aunt was like, "No, you should be more responsible than that. He is crying because he saw a man die in front of his eyes." And, you know, blah, blah, blah.
Karen, what you're saying?
What?
Your aunt was a proto Karen?
Proto Karen, yeah, kind of.
Proto Karen. She's got a plastic shell instead of the metal one.
Do not mess with her Tupperware.
Here, Max, here's the rub. My buddy Brian said to me, he goes, "Wait a minute." When I told him that story, he goes, "Wait a minute, time out. Your aunt took you to RoboCop, yes. But yet, probably that same weekend, you watched multiple men wrestle in a ring and bash each other in the head with a steel chair, and that was okay by your parents." I'm like, "Yeah, I know. We had a violence quota at my house, I guess. I don't know. But you know,
He's the violence quota for
yeah, John, you're full. Your violence quota's full for the weekend. You know."
One time I really wanted to.
The only movie that I ever walked out on was Hollywood Homicide. And that's because it was awful. That's all I got.
Oh, that's with Harrison Ford, right?
It's
Yeah.
gotta be a certain kind of bad to make Dan walk out, because if it's like really, really bad, he'll stay and watch it. It's really, really bad.
Yeah. The worst you can possibly be is just painfully mediocre.
You're like, if you're gonna be bad, just lean in.
Yeah. I mean, just make an awful movie. Just know that you're making an awful movie, and it'll probably make it good.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Dan also does love trauma films, so let's just throw that out there in transparency.
oh shit! I never did my films I could watch over and over again.
Oh yeah, what's
There's
your
three. We got
Here we go.
Hot Fuzz, Dune, and Black Christmas, the original.
This is like the third time in 3 weeks we've talked about Black Christmas.
I love the original Black Christmas.
Yeah.
It had John
we can't help
Saxon
it.
in it.
John
Come on.
Saxon died.
Yeah. And Dune has like the old man sci-fi like quota, because it's got Picard, it's got Jurgen Prochnow, and it's got Max von Sydow. Well, it does have Sting, but he was only in what, one or two other sci-fi movies.
And he wasn't an old man at that point.
No.
What did you say your first movie was? Your rewatchable movies?
Hot Fuzz.
Hot Fuzz. Yeah. Oh, great movie.
I love that movie.
Never seen it.
You've never seen Hot Fuzz?
Oh, dude.
Really? Wow.
You got to check it out.
It's a lot of fun. It really is.
Have you seen Shaun of the Dead?
Yeah, I've seen Shaun of the Dead.
Well, then what the fuck happened?
Yeah. You got to watch all three of them now, man.
Did you like The World's End?
Okay, I gotta
did.
be honest. I didn't watch I've only seen part of The World's End. I've never watched it all the way through.
I haven't seen it.
I really like World End.
The World's
I
End
liked
is
it a lot.
people just don't even like bother with. It is solid. It is a really solid flick. Check out The World's End. It's all those same guys doing another movie, and but like everyone kind of plays across the. Like Simon Pegg doesn't play the character that he normally plays, and a lot of people play like a different kind of character than they normally do.
Him and Nick Frost are like reversed.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
it was fun. I don't think it was as good as the other ones, but it's definitely worth a watch, especially now.
It's the most like dramatic and theme laden one out of the three movies. Like Shaun of the Dead, it's got serious moments certainly, but it's got that sense of fun about it. Hot Fuzz absolutely is just pure like action comedy slapstick fun. World's End, there's like a really depressing story underneath the whole movie.
Yeah, like there's a bit of like character development that goes into depressing territory in that isn't present in the other ones.
The title would indicate that.
Well, no. I mean, you could think, hey, World's End, aliens come down and stuff. Not World's End, man. I threw my life away because I was a druggy asshole.
Yeah, pretty much.
Remember World's End. Have you guys ever seen? There's this British movie called The Full Monty. Came out a few years ago before Shaun of the Dead, and one of my faves. Love that movie.
I've seen it.
They used to play that song. It was I believe in miracles.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I remember that movie.
Yeah, my friend, when we were in high school, we would maybe strip at parties we would have, and he's like, we got to watch the Full Monty. We never did Full Monty, but he's like, we got to all watch the Full Monty so we know how to do this. So I watched the Full Monty.
Oh man.
Oh, Fuzzy. You time out. You were intoxicated, right? When you decided to do this?
No, we were actually pretty straight-laced kids.
We had shiny boxers and everything. Like we went out and bought the whole suit.
Okay.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Okay.
And I'm kind of glad I wasn't at any of those parties.
I'm proud of both of you.
Yeah.
Come on, that's perfect. You're in your teens and you're like planning on going to a party and like doing a striptease. That's like courage.
Progressive.
Heck yeah.
Was this before or after the Power Rangers group?
This is after.
This is after.
much later.
Because you
That
could
was
have
a
dressed up
theme,
as Power
Dan.
Rangers and does this. Yeah.
So Power Ranger striptease.
Yeah.
You take the helmets off first.
To be
It's
fair,
morphin' time.
to be fair, Dan, subconsciously Power Rangers may have influenced us because our shiny boxers were all different colors.
See?
The Power Rangers movie might be my first theater memory, actually.
There you
The
go.
first Power Rangers movie.
Oh man. Cheeky Boots.
No.
Cheeky Boots.
Is that a movie? I thought it was just a play. I didn't know. Is it a movie too?
Yeah.
I've not seen it.
Is it?
What's that about, Jim?
I've seen Peaky Blinders.
Huh. Yeah. Not the same thing. Hopefully.
I find that such a comical name for a television show. I mean, I know that it's a real thing, but Peaky Blinders, it cracks me up.
That show is okay. It's not great, but it's definitely that's a COVID show for sure. I watched the first 2 seasons. Cillian Murphy is pretty good.
I love Cillian Murphy. Or Killian.
Sorry, I'm American. I'm sorry, but
You're gonna give me a C. It's gonna be a soft C.
Kinky Boots is a film starring Joel Edgerton, Chiwetel Ejiofor, Nick Frost.
Yeah, for real.
Wow. Okay.
All right.
Check that out.
Throw it on the list.
Yeah.
No, my favorite British movie is Snatch. I love Snatch.
Classic.
Being
Although, what was the movie that just came out that
The Gentleman.
Oh man. Okay, yeah. I feel like he's been trying to get back to the Snatch level of filmmaking for since it came out, and The Gentleman it was fun. It was fun for sure, but it and I thought there were some standout performances, but there was definitely it missed the mark as a whole for me. He hasn't hit that full the Snatch stride.
Look, I mean, if you made Snatch and you spend the rest of your life trying to remake Snatch, I understand. I'm not going to fault the guy because Snatch is so great. It's so quotable. There's so many good things about it that it's. I don't know that Guy Ritchie ever gets back there. Does Michael Jordan win the 7th ring? You know, when he's 48 years old. Like,
that's the thing. It's like you can never get back there, so we might as well just pivot and try to do something different, like a little bit of a different style.
But he did that. He made freaking the Man
that awful Madonna movie,
King Arthur movie. He made a bunch of different movies that were like nothing like what those British like gangster like dramas that he made or comedies that he made. You know, with Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels and Snatch. Yeah. No, I mean, hey, look, I love
Man from Uncle, but I have heard many people tell me that it's an underrated film.
It is. I really liked it. That was actually the first movie my fiance and I went and saw. So it not only is like a little bit nostalgic, but I went in like expecting like, oh, it's like a reboot of an old TV show that no one remembers. Like it'll probably be fine, but I really enjoyed it. Like a lot more than I thought I was going to.
I need to remind myself to watch it. It's silly that I haven't.
I kind of liked it too. It was really cool, stylized, slick. It convinced me that Henry Cavill can act and not just look pretty. So yeah.
He's great.
Definitely wasn't as bad as people made it out to be. Like I don't know why it got like a bad rap. I didn't think it was great though. I thought there was like a lot of it kind of went on for too long, and there's a lot of things where it was just like, whatever, you know. But I don't think it definitely wasn't as bad as people were saying.
I don't think it did anything like new. I think that was the biggest problem. It wasn't anything like crazy new or inventive, but it did everything it did very well. So that was why I liked it so much.
I mean, like
Henry Cavill, and then the actors was really good, and they have a lot of good actors in that movie. So I would definitely give it an underrated card, but I don't want you to take that to mean that it's like the greatest thing ever, because like I feel like there are like it does kind of like slog through. Like,
okay, guys, now I feel so bad about my Guy Ritchie comments. Poor Guy Ritchie. You know, making movies is so hard. It is. It's hard to make a bad movie. So making a good movie really is so impressive. And but it is hard. Like he had that. Snatch is like, it's such a classic and it felt like it became a classic overnight. And it's like to make that so early on in your career, that's got to be tough.
Yeah. Again, like but you have to figure what he needs to do is figure out what storm of things was going on when he made Snatch and try to recreate that storm. Because it worked out so well. I would hire all those people, like Gorgeous George and all the boxers. I would hire all those people in all my productions. Ever since then, I would try just to get that lightning back into that bottle. But it's rough. But again, like, he made it. It's like Luc Besson. Like that dude has made two of the greatest movies for me personally that I will love till the day I die. Like they're not like great movies per se, but I personally like Fifth Element. I fucking love that movie. I can watch that movie. Like, here's another one I could just watch anytime. But like when you watch it, it's a lot of different things, and not all of them are great. But I don't know why I love that movie. And once you've made that, like I can't expect you to make it again. I only love one movie. Like what's so yeah, no. Kudos to Guy Ritchie. He made Snatch. Like I'm not trying to crap on him, but like he's not made another movie that I could be like, okay, is this better than Snatch? Like there's not even another movie that he's made that puts it up there.
Jim has a good comment. He says, but we also live in a much different time since Snatch was made. Do you really think it could be made in today's society?
Yes.
No.
Yeah.
I hate that question. I hate the whole this could never be done in today's society. Like, I think that's such a. I mean, I think it works for some things, but I think it's really dumb for certain things. Like, oh, you could never make Blazing Saddles in today's society. I'm like, you absolutely could. More people would just like not get it. Like,
yeah.
I think you could still make
or it would be protested and then make more money.
Yeah,
exactly.
But this is a weird thing. I sort of agree with you, Scott, in similar ways, in different ways, or for similar reasons, in different reasons. Maybe like I feel like there's this weird thing, especially with social media and like cancel culture and stuff, where it's like this person said a thing, 15 years ago, or this politician did a thing this long ago, whatever. But I do feel like what falls out and gets ignored in that conversation is like except that 15 years ago at that time, that thing, it was a different context. It's like, we can't like, it's just like, it would have only happened in that time because that's the way it went or something. Not that I'm making excuses for anybody who said any offensive thing at any point. But
I understand.
It's just like that context, you know, looking at something without the context of that time and going back to like, oh, well, this was 20 years ago, 15 years ago. This is crazy. Why did this person say this? It's like the circumstances may have been different. There's factors we got to take into consideration, blah, blah, blah. Like,
but that requires actual work and research.
Yeah.
It's so much easier, Rebekah, just to get on Twitter and go, you know what? Cancel this person.
Honestly, I know. And I feel like social media, I feel like it's just like all collapsing in on itself, because one thing about Twitter, and I don't know if you guys feel this way, but I have been trying to like catch up on all this news that all now seems to be surrounded around Twitter and what people say on Twitter and Twitter beef. And the Twitter beef has gotten so out of hand that I like can't even find the original Twitter beef. Like, I am telling you, I've spent hours like when the JK Rowling thing happened, and I was like, wait, what happened with JK Rowling? What did she say? And I was like trying to actually find the original tweets, and it was so impossible because the Twitter beef has gotten like so deep that you like can't even find original Twitter beefs anymore. I'm like, this is out of hand. Like, this is just all social media. And like Instagram is now just like, I feel like my Explore page has just fully been hacked. Like, my feed, every other post is an ad. My Explore page just feels like it's like Russian bots, like all of it, like it's posted by real people. So I just like, I feel like it's all collapsing in on itself. I'm so curious what you guys think about it.
Well, I mean, with social media, it's like never before has man been able to know what another person has thought immediately. With no filter, with no cover. Like, you've not ever been able to, other than saying, you know, like, hey, this is what I'm saying to you, communicate with somebody and know what they're thinking. Because when you type something on Twitter or when you make a post, it's only your thoughts. There's no like reaction. There's none of the context that made you think these things. It's only the thought that you put down. So we've never, ever been able to communicate with each other in this way. And people are finding it very interesting when they find out what their friends and loved ones really think. And it's shocking to some. We were trying to get Halia Jones on for weeks, but she had some issue with her family where she was trying to deal with that. And I think that's like, they found out what some people think and they had to address it. Like that. Mm-hmm. And you know, like there's some friends who are like, hey man, I love this guy. He's great. Every time we hang out, it's a blast. But if I'm on his Twitter, I know what he thinks every day. And that may be appalling. So social media, people didn't realize what they were doing when they opened up Pandora's box. They didn't realize, obviously, that this is a direct conduit for the people reading and especially for the people posting. You are putting down, for the record, for eternity, what you think. And anyone can lock you into this moment and this time with this post. Because even if you go back and delete it, like you're saying, you can't find the original post, sometimes the original post is deleted.
But it's been screenshotted or whatever. Right.
And so it's still there. And then everyone knows what you think, and you have to stand behind it. So it's really interesting, like, with social media. And I scaled back enough to where I feel like it's a manageable amount of social media I personally can't deal, because I don't want to know what what their true thoughts are. It's like, I'm cool with just being cool. I don't want to deal with any of that. But it's the first time that we've been able to post a unfiltered, unadulterated thought and just have it be itself, and then put it out there for the entire world to discuss and to pick over and look at. So
it's so crazy. Like I feel like it's like we're all enrolled in this like social experiment before we knew what we were enrolling in, and it's like, it's just the thing with the internet in general. It's like this thing that we were all addicted to before we knew that it could be bad for us. And it's the same thing with social media.
Yeah, to quote Run the Jewels, oh shit, what the hell have we done? It's alive and it's hungry as fuck. Like
yeah, it's so relevant. It is. And like, I feel like too, especially like, I mean, I feel like we've lost all sense of self-reflection in our culture. It's like before anybody has even been able to suss out the issue. Like I just to like put it into context, it took me like an hour to even try to find the original issue that were the tweets that were like causing this uproar and backlash with the JK Rowling thing. If it took me an hour to even find them, it's like, how are people forming opinions on it before they've even like it's just like, how does anyone, people are just putting stuff out there before they've even like, it's like, and I feel like that is not entirely their fault because it's like, it's the expectation, right? Mm-hmm. That's the expectation now that you will have a big opinion on something immediately and it's going to be the right opinion and it's going to be super thoughtful and you're going to tweet something really remarkable and in real time. And it's like, what about like, did we ever think we needed to maybe think about it or read about it or look it up? I don't know.
Well, the thing is with like JK Rowling, for example, the thing is with her is that she's such a well-known like public figure and, you know, is kind of the face behind this huge media empire now at this point that, you know, with her, it's going to be like, you're going to, all the news outlets are going to take that up and you know, put that out there. The beef.
There's an added level of scrutiny.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's an added level of scrutiny given her high profile, and also it very much I feel depends on our position in, you know, the social media circle of whatever interaction we're having. Like for us, like I don't know JK Rowling, you know, or anything like that, but as a spectator, as someone who has consumed product from her before, like to be able to see like what people have aggregated with regards to her comments and statements on certain things, which I've read her statements or I've read like the things that she's kind of advocating or supporting other people's points of view on that I really don't agree with. But also it's up to us as consumers to be able to kind of especially when it comes to a creative person, try to suss that out for ourselves. Is like, okay, is what they're saying out here in this very transparent media, is that going to affect how I interpret their work or how I enjoy their work? Now, I'm not the world's biggest Harry Potter fan. I watched the movies. I never read any of the books.
Boo!
I don't.
Boo! You're not a real Hogwarts.
Fine. I don't care. Silly.
Sounds like a good thing to not be that.
They propped that kid up for a faceplant, and look what happened. Yeah. So here's the whole deal. Like, I can go the rest of my life without having to consume another one of her products. That's fine. That's my choice. That's my life, and I'll be fine for it. But I know there's a lot of people out there who are really dedicated to the fan base. Like you said, Max, true Hogwartsians or whatever. That this is a very you know, complex issue for them because Harry Potter's meant a lot to their life, and it's meant a lot to their development too. So how they come to terms with, am I going to be okay with taking in more media from J.K. Rowling, whether it's based in Harry Potter or something else? Am I still going to enjoy what she puts out there, even if I feel conflicted about what she's putting out there in with regards to her personal perspectives and points of view on things in the world? Like,
well, especially because her opinions seem to kind of conflict with a lot of the themes that she brought up in her books, and I think that's the biggest problem.
That's a big point of contention. Yeah,
Yeah, it was really weird for me because I've read all the Harry Potter books and watched all the movies and stuff. I wouldn't say I'm a diehard fan, but I'm a fan, and so I was like, oh man, when I like on the periphery kind of heard that she was embroiled in some kind of controversy, I was like, I guess I should look up what this is because, you know, I don't want to be a proponent of someone's art that is, you know, kind of spreading some tough stuff out there. But you know, I'm so glad that I took the hour it took me, maybe, I think it might have been an hour and a half to look it up because I actually learned a lot in the process. And like, it led me to some interesting articles. It led me to actually understanding more about the issue, about trans rights, about all of these things that I'm sure quite ignorant on, and was grateful for the education on it. But it's like, how many people are in the thick of it on Twitter responding or forming opinions before they've been able to do any of the actual research. Like I honestly, it's if they can do it, I'm impressed. I'm impressed that they can stay on top of it, because it's just like such a deep hole of like people fighting each other on my Twitter feed. I mean, like J.K. Rowling aside, like it's really taken on a whole new level. And like the vitriol and the bullying on Twitter, I feel like all of a sudden it's kind of become like one of the darkest places on the internet in the last few months. And I don't know if you guys feel that, but it's just changed. It's like it's weird and different.
No, it's that guttural reaction. Like you read something and you know, to take from what everyone said, really. You know, like Mike saying, Harry Potter, this whole world means so much to you, and then, you know, like there's nothing in her art that suggests her actual thoughts and you know, how she feels on the subject. There's so when you are, you know, a fan, or when you are, you know, involved in the art aspect of it, and you see what the person feels, it's very jarring. But all we can do is just be like, okay, well, even though she is this way, she made this art that I like. So, and there's nothing, again, like there's nothing in the art that supports any of her own arguments.
Yeah. That's the old, like, can you separate the art from the artist thing?
Another recent kind of issue too, like something that I know I talked about recently, like the X-Men movies, Bryan Singer. Yeah, the movies are fun and engaging, but you know, you have to kind of leave it to yourself as an individual to kind of wrestle with the idea of like, it was made by by another person who's, let's say, you know, perhaps got a little bit of some issues in his past.
I'm fully prepared to write off all Bryan Singer X-Men movies.
I mean, that's
Brett Ratner.
Yes.
Yeah. But ultimately, like, I can't make that decision for you, and you can't make that decision for me. It's like, it's just something we have to accept ourselves. And, you know, social media can be great with regards, like you were saying, Rebekah, with regards to kind of illuminating and educating ourselves on the background behind some of these expressions of art, but also the people behind them. But also, I do get what you're saying with regards to Twitter or a lot of these platforms wanting, I feel, to kind of influence and shape the way people respond without letting them kind of make the decision for themselves.
But also look at the one Twitter redemption story of James Gunn. You know, they found
that is true. It works both ways.
Yeah. So I mean, like, we'll see how it goes. Like, it's like you're saying, this is a grand social experiment that we are just, all we can do is see how it turns out. You know, it's like, you know, when they try anything new, they don't know. You know, if you're trying like a new food or something, you made it up in your lab, you're like, this is fine, and then you don't realize that, like, you know, it's NutraSweet and it causes cancer. You know, you need that 10 years of people consuming your stuff to realize that it causes cancer.
I need Wilford Brimley to tell you got diabetes.
Exactly.
And now we don't.
Before I read,
I just made myself sad.
Before I read Jim's comment, I want to comment on Twitter. Something I've always said doing this podcast, that recently somebody in my neighborhood posted something about somebody has a very funny sign that they put out that's anti-Trump, and then the guy in somebody in the thread said, "Would you feel the same way if it was a Trump sign, pro-Trump sign?" And I'm like, you have the right to express yourself politically in any way that's not harmful to me. And somehow that turned into a whole thing. I don't know what I said wrong, but
that's what Twitter, you said wrong.
Twitter is it's turning into a void. Like, for instance, Max is not a Trump supporter, but let's say Max was a Trump supporter. He has his feelings. I have mine. Yeah, I'm not going to try to convince him. He's not going to try to convince me. We're still going to be friends. We're going to grab a bite to eat, because ultimately our beliefs are that we feel like what we believe is best for the country. And I'm just going to leave it at that. And
I wish I was a Trump supporter, because I like to root for the bad guy, like in movies and stuff. But it just doesn't work that way.
But everybody out there, you have the right to vote and politically believe in who you believe in, and there's no reason anybody should come at you. And the Jim writes, how about Bill Cosby? The stuff that has come out about him, how does that change your opinion on his comedy and performances from the past? I have a comment on this. So I had Sirius XM, because like I said, I'm a Stern fan, but I was listening to one of the comedy stations and Bill Cosby popped on. This is post the incident, and it was extremely creepy, his bit. I don't remember the context of the bit. I don't remember which bit it was, but knowing what we know now about Mr. Cosby and hearing this, I know that there is a Bill Cosby bit where he talks about, you know, the magic drug that makes women groggy and stuff. And wow.
See, that's an example of where, you know, we were talking about there's nothing in, say, J.K. Rowling's writing that indicates that these were her beliefs or the points of view. You listen to some Cosby now, that stuff is laced throughout it. Like, a lot of his routines. Well, while they got the veneer of like wholesomeness at first, like you kind of get, now that you know what you know a little bit about him, you kind of get a little bit more of an inside perspective of what he means by, for example, the love drug, or that one episode of the Cosbys where he had the special barbecue sauce that makes everyone just a little bit more looser, or things like that. Or
if you look at all the titles for if you take the Ghost Dad DVD and look at all the titles of every chapter and put it in the under the eye of Bill Cosby as a rapist, it is ridiculous. Every single one is worse than the last. It is utterly absurd.
Yeah, the Bill Cosby is heartbreaking.
I think what makes it different with Cosby than it does maybe J.K. Rowling's is stand-up comedy more so than all the other forms of art is so them. Like, you have to be sold on them in order to buy the joke. Like, you're not going to run out and see a Daniel Tosh if he's, you know, out doing stuff that's wrong. Or like Louis C.K., it's really hard to look at him now knowing some of the things that he allegedly has done in the past. It's just, I don't know. Like, with stand-up, it's just so much more personal, and it's just because it's Cosby, and it is creepy.
Yeah, I can't listen to Cosby anymore.
I can't watch the Cosby Show anymore. I couldn't.
Yeah,
if they were putting on the Cosby Show, like, and not because of Bill Cosby, like just because like I am past that. Like, there's no, the Cosby Show wouldn't. I don't think it would make it under my adult eye. Like, if the Big Bang Theory wasn't on and the Cosby Show was on instead, that's not what I would be watching.
Yeah, see, I agree with you, Max. I've never rewatched the Cosby Show. I watched it when I was a kid, but that was because I was a kid. You know,
and
like,
it was the only thing that was on.
Yeah,
right. Yeah. So I mean, like, I wasn't like, to me, his allegations and what he's done does not impact me one way or the other with him. Like, I'm like, okay,
Cosby was in my top 5 stand-up comedians of all time until all this stuff came out. Early 2000s, you'd ask me, it'd have been Carlin, Pryor, Chris Rock, Bill Cosby, and I don't know who my 5th one would have been then.
Andrew Dice Clay.
I know there's a Bill Cosby album called "To My Brother Robert, Whom I Slept With," and I thought that was just the most hilarious thing of all time. Again, under the eye of Bill Cosby as a rapist, but
yeah, I mean, I think as a kid you don't recognize those things because you know,
you're not aware of it. You're
not aware of it.
Yeah, right. It's an interesting point though what you were saying. I think it was Jason who was saying that, like, with stand-up comedy you can't really separate the art from the artist in the same way because it is so much about who that person is when it's just them up there with a microphone. That's a very interesting point that I never really quite considered, that like the actual medium of art can affect how much you could separate the art from the artist. But I'm just like listening to all of this, J.K. Rowling, Bill Cosby, I'm like, can everyone just be better? Like, can anybody just be a nice guy? Like, can we stop it with it? Like, it's just so heartbreaking. It's just like, everybody just stop. Like,
that's what we're saying. Like with Wilford Brimley, who was the last one? Regis Philbin. We were so amazed that like they died and nobody sued them for anything torrid. Nobody, you know, none of these conversations even came up, and that is weird, right? Like why should we celebrate someone not being accused? sexual harassment? Like shouldn't that just be normal?
The norm.
Yeah, but that's not the norm at this point. I mean,
it's terrible, but it is what it is.
It works back to the social media point, whereas not only has it kind of emboldened a lot of more negative, obscuring forces to kind of come out of the woodwork, but also a lot more people now feel like they can tell the truth about certain individuals and feel supported on a platform or through a particular media now, because this is where we're getting a lot of these stories. A lot of women and other individuals of marginalized communities are telling their story on Twitter or telling their story through Facebook, and this is like, wow, people.
And I was gonna say, and the other thing, look, because I shared this on the PVD cast a few episodes ago with my guest Stephen Hines. During the pandemic, I got to a weekend where I had, and I think I told you guys about it. We had the pandemic, we had the social injustice and the unrest, and then for me, in my background, we had the scandal in wrestling. With all the horrible things that were going on. And I just was like, I can't take it anymore. And I walked away like on a Saturday and Sunday. I'm like, I'm not getting on Twitter. I'm not getting on social media. I'm just going to leave it. But it was hard because we have gotten so used to it. I mean, right now, this whole thing right now is predicated on social media. Otherwise, none of these comments show up. Nobody's watching. Because this is all predicated by social media. So it's become so ingrained that it's hard to leave it be. I found it, and I'm embarrassed to say it, I found those 2 days to be really odd and hard. Not to go, well, let's see what somebody tweeted. No, you said you weren't going to look at it. You're not looking at it, John.
Ironically, today's episode not included in this statement, but one of the reasons you joined our podcast was for the humor and the laughs.
Yes, because I told you I had it. I had it that weekend. I was just had it, like I was done.
It's gone crazy. It's like, and it's so overwhelming. It's like, I feel both sides of what you're saying, where it's like, I feel like it's so important to take those breaks to separate from it, and social media, it has become so ingrained, and there's so much good that has come from it, but also so much bad. It's such a double-edged sword. But when the world is feeling like things are really, everything is sort of hitting a boiling point. I mean, there was I was watching right after George Floyd's murder. I was watching my friend's live Instagram feed, who was in her apartment in LA and crying on Instagram Live. She didn't know what to do because there was tear gas coming through her windows because she was really close to where one of the protests was, and it's just like, that in and of itself was a double-edged sword. I was like very grateful to her for doing it, because immediately I called her and reached out and wanted to make sure she was okay, and actually connected her with a couple friends of mine that lived close to her because she was all by herself. But then it's like, oh my God, like we've come to this place where like actually crazy stuff is happening. People's stability, their livelihood, their worlds are being threatened in ways that are truly frightening, or they're being discriminated against in ways that are leading to real violence, death, and murder. And yet here we are, like, it feels so helpless. Like I'm like there holding my phone, like trying to call, like, it's like, oh my God. Like,
also we are so connected right now that your friend who, who doesn't know any of the people you connected her to, was able to find help and quickly and then right on the spot, just because of the availability of the technology. So again, it's a double-edged sword where it helps you and it hurts you at the same time. I was going to say something and I completely lost it. Never mind.
Well, and also this year especially, it's prevalent because for a majority of this year, we've had nowhere to go and nothing else to do. So of course we're gonna hook in and we're gonna consume.
Sorry, the power of video. Because now you're seeing like what's going on as it happens, and it speaks to social media in that, like, when you do something or when you say something that's strictly from you, you can't take it back. It's there forever. So like you're saying with George Floyd, like once these actions have been done, they're on video. We all see it right away. And it's 100% different from, like when you'd hear like, or even let's say Rodney King. Even that was it, like they did the thing. Someone had the video. He took the video to the news. It took a day, but then the news started running it, and then like, oh, they do the story, and then things build and happen. Now it's immediately. That dude was on his neck for 10 minutes, and then 5 minutes later, everybody knew about it. While he's writing up his report, everybody's watching the video of what he did right then. And it's 100% different from what anyone is expecting, and that's how we're getting all these Karens now, all this police brutality, all this stuff. These people don't realize that the times have changed. The video is immediate, and it's permanent. They'll find out who you are. Like the chick who called the cops. The Amy whatever who called the cops on the dude in Central Park, because he told her to put her dog on a leash. She lost her job. She like all this stuff happened, and I'm not trying to defend her, but I'm saying she didn't realize the immediacy of the video. You don't know how everything you've done, everything you think, everything you say can be immortalized right now forever, and people will put you in that place and that time. Like there's no getting away from it.
It's happening right now on Redline Radio.
Yeah.
Nicely done, Mike. Nicely done.
You know what? One of the most astounding things to me was shortly after, and it's all sort of a blur. I don't know if you guys find this, but as soon as George Floyd was murdered, it was just like the time after that, the few days after that, it just feels like so blurry. Like things were happening so quickly and so much was unfolding. But this right after it happened, this is like burned in my brain. There were several videos, but one in particular of a CNN reporter that was attacked by, like, he's arrested by cops, and they're slowly like arresting his crew as he's going like, hey, I have my media pass, like it's right here. I'm just trying to do my job. You're on television live right now, just so you know. Like this man is telling the police, you are, not only am I recording this, it is live on CNN. I'm not going to upload it. Like, please, he's trying to make it clear to them.
Like, do the right thing. You can still do the right thing.
For all intents and purposes, like, he's being very generous in that moment to be like, like it's live on television. Like, please don't do this. And they fully arrest him, and like it's violent. It's like, and that was the moment where I was like, what is going on? Because you would think that the idea of being filmed, that would be, but it's almost like the opposite has happened, that the idea that they're threatened by being filmed has almost like ramped up the toxicity and violence. I don't know.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing as any social media. Whatever you've got going on, you will show. So when you make the racist comment, when you arrest this dude for doing his legal job, like that's you. That shows you. And people don't understand that. Like, not yet. We're getting there, but they don't understand it yet. Where that's when you're on film hitting a dude 5 times with your billy club for standing there, which is, last time I checked, and I'm not a lawyer, but it's totally legal to stand in a place in America.
Hey, hold on. We'll Jason and I will confer with Ben Matlock.
Talk about Matlock, because I want to know. But again, I'm not a lawyer. But when you're on the video doing these things, you're being recorded, because everyone has a camera in their pocket now, and it's unfortunate that we need it. I don't think people understood how much we need the camera in our pocket, but if you want it'll show once a person knows they're being recorded, because and this is mostly for the Karens. That doesn't happen a lot, I don't think. Once a person knows they're being recorded and doubles down on the action that they're doing, that is them. That is really them. They're not going to do anything else than show you their real self, because they can't even help it. So, like, I'm down. I'm down for all these people. Like, I'm not saying cancel culture, but show me who you are, and I can decide for myself what I want to do. And like, it's like Brad Pitt in Inglourious Bastards. He carves a freaking he carves a Nazi symbol into every Nazi he finds head. Right? He's like, because I need to see my Nazis. I need to know that they're Nazis, and I need to see them out in the open. And that's that. I'm totally fine with that.
I got the perfect transition back to being nerdy. Jim writes, get Denny Crane. He's more effective than Matlock. And Jim, I'm halfway through Boston Legal currently, and I absolutely agree. Denny Crane and Alan Shore.
No, but Denny Crane leans on James Spader in that show. He leans on him all the time. Denny Crane, as we see him, is not the Denny Crane who got to where he is. Like that's what I don't like. That's the only thing I pose as an argument against Denny Crane versus Matlock. Matlock
has to earn it.
Well, to be fair, Denny Crane just has to walk into the courtroom, say his name, and then sit down. He's won the case.
No, that's not true. That's not true. No, that's not true. Okay, because I've seen episodes. I haven't started watching Boston Legal, but I'll watch episodes of Jason every now and again. I haven't started watching it religiously, but he leans on James Spader to finish the case because his name it wasn't enough.
He's got Matt
and he needs help. So Matlock, I would say, is the better lawyer.
Yes.
Still in his prime versus Denny Crane, who is only using the name and the persona he's created to bully people.
Okay, let me ask you this: can we agree that Alan Shore might be a better lawyer than Matlock?
Is that James Spader's character?
Yeah.
Yes, I would agree. I would argue.
Sorry, John.
I would argue
that Matt Murdock is the better lawyer because he can sniff all your lies out.
He's
got radar.
Nice. Thank you, Jim. You got us back into some nerdy talk.
Hold on. I would like to point out that you guys gave me shit for my Asian drama while you go on a 20-minute rant about stupid TV lawyers.
I did not give you any shit. Let the record show, Your Honor. Let the record show. I gave no shit to Dan I just asked if that category popped up organically or what. That's all.
When I started Boston Legal, I honestly thought it was a Murder, She Wrote show. But like episode 4 of the current season I'm watching now, new lawyers come in and William Shatner turns to Spader and says, I thought new characters were introduced in the first episode of the season. And it's like, what? This is they're breaking the fourth wall. It's great.
Now, Boston Legal is better than I gave it credit for when it was airing. I got to admit,
you didn't expect the quirkiness, did you?
No, I like it. I like the show. Like it's I can sit down if it's on. I'm not like, I need to go do something else.
Is it better than Boston Public?
Now, I haven't seen Boston Public, but I keep on getting it confused. Like in my head, I want to say Boston.
Same here. When Jason texted me about that, I'm like, you're watching the show with Chi McBride, where he's the principal of the high school?
Yeah, I feel like we're in a time loop. We've talked about this before. The Boston Public, Boston Legal comparisons.
Sorry,
I'm not going to go.
You got more questions.
You've got 18 minutes to give us some more questions.
This is the quarantine talking. That's what I'm going with.
They are doing a prequel series to The Witcher called Blood Origin. I enjoyed The Witcher season 1. How do you guys? Let me just throw that out there real quick with some random nerdiness.
I like season 1. I'd like him to go a little further before throwing in a prequel, but whatever.
Haven't watched it.
I played the video game a little bit, and I tried to watch the pilot like 5 or 6 times. I tried so many times to watch the pilot. And for whatever reason, I just couldn't get through it. Like it was like, I'm not even saying it was bad. Like it could have just been a mood that wasn't aligning or something. No, I was like trying so hard to follow the story, and I was like, wait, what? Like but I think it was my like having played the video game. I like had an expectation. Like I almost wanted the show. Funny, you should have mentioned prior crime procedurals. Like I almost wanted the show to follow like a procedural format where I was like, yeah, let's like fight a different monster or like go on a different, like the video game, like let's go on a different quest every episode. And like, I just want it to be clear and finite. Like tell me what the quest is 5 minutes into the episode and like the quest. But then I just couldn't, it just like wasn't computing. I don't know why.
Okay. Rebekah, I would say the first episode is not what's the word? It does not represent the entirety of that season.
Okay.
It is hard. It is really hard to watch that first episode. The same thing happened to me. I watched it 3 times before I actually got all the way through and was able to move on. But because they try to cram so much more stuff in that first episode, it's a bad episode. It's like possibly the worst episode of the season.
And you get used to the wig. So.
Yeah, it gives me hope though. I always kind of secretly love watching when stuff is bad or like when a pilot is bad because I'm like, yes, like a pilot can be bad and people will still watch it.
Yeah,
Watch the show, and I find that so common. Like so many fans of shows, and I find it with myself too. I'm like, okay, the pilot was bad, but I'm going to try episode 2. I'm going to give it a shot, and like we have that patience. I don't know.
That's a new thing too. That's the binge mentality. Yeah. I think DVD brought it on, where like some shows that had gotten canceled, you could pick up and watch the entirety of the show, and you're like, okay, well I know that it's only this long and I can commit to that. So you watch the whole thing and say but if you're watching it on TV and that time is especially, it's like, I only have between 5:30 and 6 o'clock to watch whatever, and it better not be friggin' Matlock, or whatever. I'm just kidding. I'm sorry. We were just talking about it recently. There's no offense to Matlock. Matlock is a great show. Check out the only Matlock podcast, Matt Talk, on 3 Geeks Network at any time. But if that's not your bag, then they don't get your half an hour. But if you have the time to just watch, it's like, okay, well now in my free time, I've got an extra 2 hours to spare. I can watch 4 episodes of whatever. Then it changes. So it's a different. It's another one of those social media different times sort of deals where a show gets a shot because you've just got, you're watching it on your time, not their time.
Mm-hmm.
I agree, Jim. It did start with Firefly
and Family Guy.
Yes.
Those are the
good.
24.
Speaking of which, you can catch a new episode of my One and Done podcast where we're talking about Firefly over at anchor.fm/Katie-Michael. One and Done podcast, Firefly, since we're plugging all our social stuff now.
Oh, we are?
I love you.
We haven't gotten there yet. Me and John still have our Matlock plug.
You just plugged it. It took you like 20 minutes to plug that shit. Come on.
I want to answer more of Rebekah's question.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. I got more for you. While we're on the topic of shout outs, shout out to Blau. I hope I'm pronouncing this right. Blau Arts. Thank you for watching Night Owl. That came up in the comments. I really appreciate it. And I'm so stoked that you saw it from or heard about it from this podcast. So yeah, okay, here's my question. It's going to be a little bit of a convoluted preamble, but here it is. So in the last little while, in lieu of our conversation about how dark the world has become, or in the last few months, 2020 has really doubled down, tripled down, quadrupled down on crazy, brutal things. One thing that's occurred to me from the perspective of being a creator and a writer is like, and I've noticed this a lot in the last few years, where it's like what happened with the happy ending, where it's like all of a sudden everyone was like, yeah, like fuck happy endings, they're so cliche, but then every movie had an unhappy ending, and it was like, now that's so cliche, I'm so bored of it. I feel like that's what's happened with characters, especially in television, but also movies as well, where it's like all of a sudden there was like this tipping point. It was like, yes, the protagonist should be good, but they should be flawed, because that feels real. And audiences nowadays want something really real. But then there was this tipping point where it was like all of a sudden we were just watching shows where I liked absolutely none of the main characters. Mm-hmm. And I feel like there's this thing for me where I'm like, because life so often does imitate art, I feel this kind of responsibility as a creator to make art that shows, and I'm not talking in a cheesy way, I'm not talking in a cliched way, but I feel a responsibility to make art that shows what our world can be to a certain extent, and what the best in people looks like. And that there are some people who are noble, and there are some people who are just genuinely good. And who don't have ulterior motives, who won't break your trust, because we're living in this time of like, people don't trust the government. They feel their trust has been broken. Like, you can understand that in a lot of instances, for example, but I feel that echoed so much in the characters that we see on television. And I wonder like what you guys make of that, what you think about the nobility of characters or the lack thereof. And like, do you care about something having some significance to you when you watch it, like in terms of the world? Or do you think that like, because of how much upheaval is going on right now, that content should have a stance on social justice or any particular issue? It could be broad, it could be narrow, but I'll leave it open-ended there because I feel like it'll procure more interesting answers from you guys.
So I'll grab that one real quick. Just with a recent personal experience, I am a huge fan of Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Are you?
Which I felt. I know it comes as a surprise to everyone.
Hold on, Scott. Hold that thought. I just want a one-word review of Star Trek Lower Decks.
Unsure.
Okay.
Just because everything else Okay, we'll get to that. We'll get to that.
One word.
Well, because Next Generation was so positive, and like you said, like it showed what things could be, and it showed like the positivity in everyone, and even people who like had like flaws and struggles, like they always like for the most part the main cast always made the right choice in the end, and that's why I have such a problem with the recent Star Treks like Discovery and Picard, because it's such a negative view of everything, and everyone is just like always making awful decisions and screwing other people over, and just generally being bastards and bad people. And it was one of those things where like Next Generation is again like such a positive force, and I feel like we needed something like that, and because this is so directly related to Next Gen, the fact that everything was so negative, especially during this time, with the pandemic and all the social issues we're having, to have it just be like have such a negative outlook on life and everything really just doubly bummed me out. So
yeah, and you know what, I have to say, like, I guess a simpler way of phrasing the question, lol, after I just like took me 10 minutes to ask it, like, I feel like a simpler way to say it is just that like I'm so sick and tired of cynicism in art, I guess, in the same way that you're describing with Star Trek, where I'm just like, cynicism is just kind of boring. Like, it's easy to be cynical about something, and I just want to see new examples of optimism, of people making the right choice or overcoming a flaw. It's not that characters can't be flawed. Obviously, we're all flawed. Nobody's perfect. But like, I'm bored of the cynicism. So I feel that comment really hard. And I agree with you completely.
Yeah, and you'll find it in like James Bond. The Daniel Craig James Bond is a noted change from the norm of James Bond, where like they want it to be more realistic and more gritty, and James is really feeling these things. Like before it's like, girls are here, I don't care. Like it doesn't matter who she is, yada yada. Like just another fling for me. I'm James Bond. But then now like he's got these love interests, and they like the plot revolves around him dealing with things that happen to them, and like it's a more a lot of people don't like it because it's more gritty. It's more of that like realism. They want their it's like, oh, I'm James Bond, I wear a tuxedo to everything, and everything works out by the end of the movie. Because like I don't need to see James Bond being hurt emotionally to get this character. And yeah, it's just the times, like you can see where they started writing James Bond like that when the Jason Bourne movies came out, who is a James Bond character. He can do anything and go anywhere and no one can stop him, but he's got to struggle with his morals and how he feels, with the decisions that he's made in life. And then so they saw, how the Bourne movies made a bunch of money. They're like, we can do that with James Bond. But that's not necessarily James Bond, and a lot of people have a problem with that. But it's really, it's a lot of things. It's a lot of different. It's the art of the times. Like, is the art from the Dark Ages the same as the art from the Renaissance? Like what? One would obviously be a lot more bleak and one more hopeful. But what are people ready to hear at the time? And what is gonna resonate with more people to get your stuff more known at the time. So like it's a lot of that, and we might be shifting again, and it's just the different mentalities that come from it. It's like, okay, I've been stuck inside for 4 months with all my dark, grumpy thoughts. I don't need dark, grumpy thoughts. I need something positive to help me out of my dark, grumpy thoughts. So yeah, I feel like you're going to see another shift in the art, in what, because like now we're seeing, even like we're seeing a lot more like the 80s action flick kind of came back. Where, like for a while there, you didn't want to see just a random action movie where The Rock goes through, teams up with Jason Statham and tears up like all the way from New York to Samoa. Like that movie, you can't make it in 2010, but you can make it now that they're kind of laughing at it. But like you made Tango and Cash already. It's the same movie, but it worked in the 80s. It works now. It didn't work 10 years ago. So, I mean, that's kind of...
I think, like, the idea is that the escapism is there, but it doesn't mean it has to be shallow. Like, yeah, absolutely. You can find a lot of relatability and a lot of compelling storytelling going on with characters that in, like, high-flying fantasy and so forth. That's what basically Marvel's built their whole brand on for the past 10 or 11 years, is this idea of, like, here, have this break from reality, have this... And they'll get into parallels with things, obviously, like they'll get into parallels with regards to political stuff or socioeconomic stuff, because Marvel is a universe that's built in real world settings, but it's not the focus. It's not the sole, like, kind of objectivity that they want to explore. It's more about, like, here, have some superheroes that you can relate to. They're flawed, but you can still find something to enjoy with them and be able to punch evil in its face and feel good about that.
So before I read Jim's comment, I want to say, I think this kind of goes with the question, is when I saw that Bill and Ted was coming out this summer, I was so excited because after everything we've been through, whether that movie is good or bad, I don't even care at this point. I'm just excited that we get to see these two idiots go on another adventure. Yeah. And I feel like now, like Dumb and Dumber it'd be a good time for them to make another Dumb and Dumber right now, because I feel like that stupid comedy is something we could kind of latch onto. And then Jim's comment was, I personally don't want politics in my TV comedies. It's going to sound bad, but having classic shows remade and seem to focus on political issues is annoying. Case in point, the new One Day at a Time. Almost every political issue of today is in the first season. Jim, I agree with you. Having said that, I'm personally a huge fan of One Day at a Time, the remake, but I respect your opinion. And again, I agree. When you turn on a comedy, you don't necessarily want to be sucked into their political views.
But I mean, like, there's been a lot of classic comedies that have had very political issues. Look at Jimmy Fallon remade the Archie Bunker show. The
Jeffersons.
The Jeffersons, and those are heavily predicated on race. Like that is the whole point of the show. And so there's been a lot of comedies that have taken the mood of the time or one of the issues of the times and worked it that way. So I mean, like, I'd have to disagree. Like I get
if it fits naturally into the show,
right? If the show was about this sort of thing, then okay, like we can run with it. And if not, like, it kind of sucks to shoehorn it in. But if they're updating something, then these people from the show have to live in today's times, and today's times require them to weigh in on some of these subjects.
Yeah, if the Goldberg suddenly got super political, I'd be so mad. Yeah, that's not why I watched that show. Not at all.
I think though that what Jim is identifying is, I mean, it's a very, very valid point, but a little bit different than my question. I mean, I think kind of what I think it was maybe Mike that just said it, but like, it is a matter of, like, I was more thinking about characters themselves rather than like real life political issues, but like characters themselves that are noble, that are good, that overcome their flaws. I think is really something that we need to inspire us, whether it's in a real world context or not. But like the idea of like working in a political issue, I totally feel Jim in terms of like when sometimes it just feels forced and you're like, okay, like it's not an after school special, like it's just supposed to make me laugh. So like if it happens to work and it's well integrated, but I feel like that question is almost like about a difference in writing, like a really good writer knows how to work in an issue through allegory, by not necessarily being what we call too on the nose, which is something that we talk about a lot in writing. When you're being just too on the nose about something, you're trying to drill home your point. Like, you don't have to hammer it that hard. It's like, you don't have to hit an ant with a sledgehammer if you're trying to get something across to your audience. You have to assume your audience is smart and savvy.
Rebekah, tell everybody where they can find you.
Oh, yeah. Oh my God. Are we out of time? Oh my God.
Yeah.
Well, okay. You can find me on Twitter at Rebekah Miskin, just my name. And on Instagram, I think I'm Becca Miskin, or I might be Rebekah Miskin. And then you can watch Night Owl at nightowl.vhx.tv, and 100% of the profit is being donated to 3 fantastic organizations doing really incredible work in our community.
Awesome. You guys know where to find us. Have a great day.
Thanks so much for having me.
That is so crazy. How does 2 hours fly by like that?
I know it got so heavy in the middle. Like, I feel like we weren't planning on having like a big social discussion.